Hello and welcome back to Typical City, the current Premier League champions taking on the side rooted to the bottom of the Premier League with 9 points in 19 games. It's hardly a good reading for Sheffield United fans. They have been a bit of whipping boys for the Premier League this season. They've been getting spankings, but Chris Wilder's rocked up. He has breathed a new sense of belief within Sheffield United. They're not getting the results they want because they did get unlucky results against Luton, for example, but they've took draws off Brighton, took draws off Villa, and they beat Brentford as well. So they may be a little bit more belief than we could give them credit for right now. Looking at the league table, isn't exactly pretty for them, but still, Manchester City should be comfortably winning this game. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff tomorrow at the Etihad. That's 3 o'clock UK time. I'm not 100% sure whether I'm doing a watch long yet because I don't know whether you can tell I'm starting to sound a little bit raspy. I'm a little bit unwell. I've been fighting off my family members left, right and centre who've all been trying to come at me with their hugs and kindness, and I've been like, "Pcha, get away," because they've all been ill. They've all been ill. I've been dodging it for about 2 weeks, and it seems to have been sinking its claws into me in the last couple of days, and I'm starting to feel a bit worse for wear. So we're gonna have to see how we go for tomorrow. Doing a 2.5, 3 hour watch along with a throat like this isn't ideal. And sitting there with snot pouring out my face, like,
Hello, yes, there's Jack Grealish on the ball. Jack Grealish has got the ball. Oh, he's passed the ball.
no one wants to see that. No one wants to see it. Or maybe you do. Maybe you do want to see it, you sick bastards. The lot of you, sick bastards. But Manchester City should be comfortably winning this. I personally think we should be putting 4 or 5 past them, continuing on with the form that we gathered in the Club World Cup. Not the greatest first halves I've ever seen from Manchester City, in particular the last 15-20 minutes against Everton of that first half wasn't great, but the second half was very much City of old, and when I say old, I mean last season. And it was a real sense of, it was like an outpouring of frustration from Manchester City players, and just we know what we're capable of. It felt like that. It's like, right, let's show them. Let's show them what we're all about, shall we? And that's what Phil Foden did. He virtually did that by himself, single-handedly grabbed that game by the scruff of the neck and won it for Manchester City. Hopefully he can do that again. But there are some narratives that you can look at City's season. Excuse me. There are some narratives that you can look at with regards to Manchester City. For example, we've conceded in our last 8 Premier League games, and we've conceded first 7 times this season. But in recent form, the last 6 competitive games, we've won 5 of them and drawn 1 of them. So that reads, you can spin the narrative in whichever way you want to look at. In terms of Sheffield United, we're unbeaten against them in 11 games, and I know it's Sheffield United. We should be unbeaten in 11 games, and we've won our last 6 against Sheffield United. And Manchester City haven't lost their last fixture of the calendar year in the last 22 seasons. Only once, we've done that in the last 22 seasons, which is incredible, really, to end the year so well every year for the last 22 seasons, bar one. That's pretty incredible. And I imagine it's going to be some sort of victory for Manchester City. But what I don't want to see is mistakes. I don't want to see sloppiness cropping into our play. Little errors that happen, the Rodri error against Everton, Akanji involved, Bernardo Silva was involved in that goal that we just gifted Everton a goal out of absolutely nothing. We can't afford to do that against Sheffield United, even though we could very easily turn the game around. I don't want to concede a goal at all against Sheffield United. I want it to be a clear-cut, really convincing performance. In terms of predictions, I'm going to go for 4-0. I'm going to go for 4-0. I'm going to go for an Alvarez getting 2. Phil Foden gets himself another one. And maybe Jack Grealish popping up with one. That would be nice, considering he's had a bit of a rough week. So big shout out to Jack Grealish. I doubt he watches this channel, but still. I mean, I feel for the guy having his house burgled and his family put under threat like that. I can't even imagine. So I don't know where his head's going to be at for this game. I mean, you can use it as fuel. You could effectively come onto the pitch with a real purpose and just have that, an outpouring of emotion and channel it onto the pitch. Or you could come onto the pitch feeling a little bit apprehensive and more. Your head's been turned elsewhere, and that's very understandable. If your family's in jeopardy, you're not gonna. I would personally find it quite hard to focus on my job if someone had just burgled my house. and stolen £1 million worth of jewellery and put the missus and the children under threat. That would be terrifying to me, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Jack Grealish and how he would handle this. I'm sure he will be able to handle it. Hopefully he can. But I feel like we're going to go up against a hard-working Sheffield United side. They were really unlucky against Luton. They went 1-0 down from some real sloppy goalkeeping from Fotheringham. Allowing that ball to trickle through his legs was really, really sloppy. And then throwing in the fact that they managed to turn the game round and go 2-1 up, and in the final 13 minutes of the game conceding two horrible. I mean, you could try that 1,000 times again and that'll never happen again. The last own goal was ridiculous, just like the biggest deflection you've ever seen, and looping into that top corner like that. It was brutal on Sheffield United. So they might be feeling a little bit sorry for themselves, Sheffield United, and they might even have more reason to feel sorry for themselves considering their injury list is reasonably high. They've picked up 2 more suspensions following that Luton game, as well as James McAtee, arguably their best creative player, is ineligible because he's on loan from Manchester City. So they're kind of fucked, Sheffield United. They're kind of fucked for this game. Personally, that's a lot of the reason why I think City should be quite comfortable in this game. I'm struggling, guys. I'm hoping that hopefully I can do a watch long tomorrow, but you'll have to forgive me if I don't, because I can barely make it through this right now. So God knows how I'm going to do it for 2.5 hours in a watch long tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully a miraculous recovery can take place, but we'll have to wait for that. In terms of Sheffield United's injury news as well, they've got Chris Basham out, John Egan, Tom Davis and Daniel Jeberton all out. The 2 players that were suspended were Gustavo Hamer, who's been really well, signed from Coventry last season, a really good player from them, and Ahmed Hodzic, who scored I think it was the first goal, or no, it made it 2-1, I think, against Luton, came up from the back and popped it very comfortably, a very striker's style finish into that bottom corner from Ahmed Hodzic, and he's suspended, as well as James McAtee being ineligible as well. In terms of City, there's Haaland, Doku, Kevin De Bruyne, who are all pretty much guaranteed out. Kevin De Bruyne is still a very, very tiny possibility that we might see a couple of minutes at best. But the news is that Haaland and Doku's not. John Stones it sounds quite a bad one. And John Stones is starting to become a topic for a whole other video. I mean, is he worth... do we need to start thinking about other options? And I know it's cruel to sound like a player of John Stones' quality and just like, right, let's move on now. But we had to think like that with Vincent Kompany. In the end of his Manchester City career, he was picking up injuries so frequently that you had to make contingency plans to have instead of. We need a safety net. We can't rely on players that are so frequently picking up injuries. And I mean, it was a bit of a freak incident. His ankle just bent in a really awkward way, but it's not the first time. We barely get through a season without seeing 2 or 3 John Stones injuries now. And he should be hitting the peak of his career and being at his full fitness. And it's cruel to say, like, right, sell him. I don't think that. I just think we need to make plans for the fact that this guy's picking up so many injuries. And it's a real shame, but there's no room for sentiment. We can't just be like hanging our hat on him and thinking, oh, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. When he's fit, we'll play him. You need to make plans for things like that. And it's a real shame that he's injured again. And City have got a headache, potentially. A headache, because I was really looking forward to the second half of the season and seeing what we saw last season with John Stones alongside Rodri. That was really exciting to me. So I don't think we'll be seeing that for quite some time. And what Pep was indicating was you're looking at another month, maybe 2, with how serious the injury is. So hopefully we can see him before the end of the season and those last 5-10 games of the season. John Stones is back, because that would be ideal. In terms of predicted starting 11, I'm going to start with Sheffield United, and Chris Wilder, I imagine, is going to stick with Fotheringham at the back, even though that howler at the weekend against Luton, was a big one. It was a big one, but I imagine he's going to stick with him. It will be pretty brutal to drop him. I have a feeling they're going to go 5 at the back. I think it's their best hope for getting anything out of this game, considering the suspensions and the injuries and the ineligibility of McAtee in there as well. I imagine Jayden Bogle, who's been playing really well, I'm going to stick him at right back to be sort of their right wing back. And Yasser Laruzzi, I think, is going to be the left wing back. And George Baldock most likely would come in as a right centre back with Jack Robinson in the middle between them. If I can find him. Can't seem to find him. Alongside Jack Robinson as well. There's Jack Robinson, pop him in there. I imagine Jack Robinson's going to have Austin Trusty alongside him as well, which I think is their best hope, really, considering the fact that they've lost Ahmed Hodzic and numerous other. Chris Basham's been out, John Egan's been out as well for some time, so they are a bit strapped at the back, and they've not really played the same back line ever this season. I can't remember the last time Sheffield United played the same back four or back five or back three, even 2 games in a row. I can't remember the last time they did that. So it's hard to gain enough momentum in this Premier League as it is, being Sheffield United. But having such a topsy-turvy defensive line that's consistently changing week in, week out, it doesn't make it easy for them. In front of them, I'm going to go for Oliver Norwood. I think he will offer even a bit more solidity in front of them, and Vinny Souza alongside him with 2 defensive midfielders. I'm going to go for Anis Ben Slimane, alongside them. More of a narrow, more like a 5-4-1, I think they'll go for, with that 4 being quite narrow. And Andre Brooks being sort of a left-sided player, but most likely tucking inside to kill that block, to create that narrow block in midfield for them, and Cameron Archer up top. But you never know, you might see Cameron Archer and Oliver McBurney playing in this game. Ollie McBurney scored a goal at the weekend against Luton as well, so you never know. But I do think it's going to be Cameron Archer up top for them, which I think is their best hope of. I mean, that you can immediately see the setup there. It's immediately evident that would be a system to stop rather than to attack and to win the game. That's a very defensive setup there, and I think that's probably their best hope. Having Ollie McBurney playing alongside Cameron Archer might pose a bit more of a counter-attacking threat, but they're not exactly blessed with speed either for anything on the counter-attack. They've not got the quickest players either, so I'm feeling really confident about this one. Ederson for Manchester City. I imagine Gvardiol would be trusted in this game, and I thought he came on against Everton for John Stones' injury, and I thought he was really good. Josko Gvardiol, but prior to that performance against Everton, not his greatest cameos coming on in the Club World Cup. Both fixtures he was sloppy, really sloppy, but I think I say afford, it's a little bit patronising towards Gvardiol to say afford to play him against Sheffield United, but it is one of those situations, and I'm more thinking about protecting Nathan Ake than giving Gvardiol minutes. I'm more worried about losing Nathan Ake with big games coming up. I'd wrap Nathan Ake up, play him once a week in the big games, the really challenging games in top 10 Premier League teams. Against Sheffield United, Gvardiol surely has enough to deal with anything defensively that's thrown his way. Ruben Diaz is reportedly back from illness. Wish I could say the same about myself. Probably picked up even Pep sounded ill, didn't he, in his interview? It's just going around. Something's going around in Manchester. And I'm going to go for Kyle Walker as the right-sided centre-back as well, who's played really well against Everton, really well. In front of them, I think we can see Rodri, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Kovacic as well, who came on and did really well in terms of controlling the game against Everton in that final 20-25 minutes I think he came on for, and he kept the ball really well. I'd like to see Kovacic again. In front of them, it has to be Phil Foden. Surely Phil Foden starts this game in the middle, considering his performance against Everton. Once again, I mean, reflecting on that Everton performance, he is the main man in terms of a must start in this game. Alongside Phil Foden is where it gets interesting now, because I think with Alvarez almost definitely going to start because there is no Haaland, that therefore places Alvarez as a number 9, which therefore Alvarez isn't going to drop into that midfield role, really only leaving Bernardo Silva, who I think will play right wing, so let's pop him in at the right wing. I think that's where he'll play again. And now you're only really left with Rico Lewis or Mateus Nunes, and it would be a bit cruel to drop Mateus Nunes, but doesn't Rico Lewis deserve minutes? Because I thought he was brilliant in the Club World Cup, and I think he's been really good this season. Rico Lewis showing real maturity above his age. So I am going to go with Rico Lewis in midfield alongside Phil Foden as well. A bit of the old City Academy there in front of them. And I'm going to go for Jack Grealish, who I'm hoping is mentally okay for this game, considering what's going on for him personally. And then Alvarez up top to complete the predicted starting 11 for Manchester City and Sheffield United. I am going to go 4-0. Get your predictions in the comment sections below. I'll have to let you know tomorrow how I feel about the watch-along. I do apologise for anyone who was hoping to see a watch-along tomorrow. If it doesn't happen, I might be able to turn it round and just sit there sipping Corvonia is what I've been drinking lately, which is a very potent medicine. A potion, hopefully it's a potion, a concoction of wonderful things that can miraculously recover my well-being for a watch-along. I have my doubts, but if I do one, I look forward to seeing you. If I don't, I'll see you in the next one, and I do apologise. But get your predictions in for Sheffield United versus Manchester City in the comment sections below. Please do drop a like, it really does help. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is typical City now, holding up 7.